Welcome to the Everybody Matters podcast, a show dedicated to the idea that when organizations care enough to show their people that who they are and what they do matter, they unlock the only business idea with truly unlimited potential. I'm Brent Stewart, your host. This podcast is an outreach of Barry-Wehmiller. Don't forget to connect with us on the web at barry-wehmiller.com, on Twitter at Barry-Wehmiller, on Facebook and LinkedIn, and check out our blog, trulyhumanleadership.com. Do you ever get frustrated at your job? Do you feel like there are days when you go to work and there's one hurdle after another that through no fault of your own keep you from being productive? You've told other people in your organization about these hurdles and inefficient processes, but they basically shrug and say that's the way we've always done things. When you go to work every day and that cycle of frustration keeps repeating, does it make you feel like the work you do doesn't matter? And how does that make you feel when you go home at night? Over the last 30 years, Barry-Wehmiller has acquired almost 80 companies, each one with its own challenges. So we've seen lots of frustration from people within those broken businesses who didn't feel like anyone was listening to them. On this episode of the Everybody Matters podcast, you'll hear about how we at Barry-Wehmiller try to eliminate as much frustration as possible from the work lives of our team members so they could go home happier and more fulfilled. In 2006, Barry-Wehmiller decided to embrace the principles of Lean, an operating philosophy developed by Toyota and written about extensively by a professor named Jim Womack. But of course, because Barry-Wehmiller measures success by the way we touch the lives of people, we went about things a little differently. To begin to explain what Lean is and why companies, including Barry-Wehmiller, look to incorporate Lean principles into their business, here's Jerry Solomon, a retired BW team member who's also written books on the subject of Lean, followed by Barry-Wehmiller CEO Bob Chapman.
Well, we try to embrace Lean and incorporate it in whatever we do here. It's like the GPL. It's a way of life. So whether we call it GPL, whether we call it L3, whether we call it Lean, it really is all the same thing. It's how we treat people, how we want to work for a company that focuses on continuous improvement, how we want to empower people, engage their minds and their hearts, not just their arms and legs, and realize that we're all in this together, trying to improve the company, at the same time improve our lives, our long-term security, and our life at home as well. It has an impact on everything we do. Some companies or heads of companies start Lean with the idea of the lean and mean, or lean means less employees and now. So they're in it for the quick fix. They really have no idea what true Lean is all about. People typically do describe Lean as the elimination of waste, or doing more with less, or doing the same with less. And that's a terrible message, because, what's the message when you say it's about eliminating waste, and the next thing you know, you're laying off people? You're basically saying people are waste, and you're watching people go out the door. And, I'm so proud to work for a company like Barry-Wehmiller that understands that we're only as good as the people. And, Bob has challenged leaders to make way, or to find ways that we don't need to eliminate people. That's not in our culture. Great leadership will find ways to redeploy people, or even better yet, grow the business so that we could do a lot more with the same people, and better people, and more engaged people. So that's kind of the difference of traditional description of Lean. We hope, we practice a different kind of Lean here, and we're in it for the long term. And what that means, we have to develop people. We have to build great people, and great people do great things. So we have to be a little bit more patient with the way we do it, and we have to do a lot of teaching, hence Barry-Wehmiller University, those kinds of things. So it's very, very different. In the Lean community, and Bob has said it often on his speeches, and we share the fact that 97% of companies going down a Lean journey really don't achieve what we would call Lean. And one would ask why.
I gave a talk to one of the largest companies in the state of Wisconsin, a global company, and they invited me to speak because they saw the way we approach the concepts of Lean. And they asked us to come and speak at their global operations meeting in O'Hare, and they had 75 people from around the world that ran this $20 billion division of a much larger company. And I set down with the group when I came to talk just like this, and I said, why did you embrace the concepts of lean? And they said, to improve margin on our product. And I said, well, you haven't got a chance. Do you actually think your team members are going to go home each night saying, boy, we just improved the profitability of the company a little bit today? So the problem of this concept is people started with the wrong reason. The power of lean is that you begin to listen. I was telling a group just a minute ago, when I got my undergraduate degree from Indiana and my graduate degree, MBA from Michigan, I thought it was all about me and my success. I thought I was getting a good education, going to get good experience, get a good job, so I could tell people what to do. That's what bosses do, okay? They tell people what to do. And what Jim Womack really discovered, which he doesn't understand, is he learned to flip that upside down and say, you know, you have gifts and talents. You know what you're doing. I'll bet together, if we sit down, we could figure out how to do it better and it'd be more fun. You will probably reduce costs when you allow people, the environment, to share their gifts. But that will be a byproduct, not the reason. So the power of lean is it flipped what management is, what bosses were, what supervisors were, and the people who do the various tasks within companies, within departments. They know how to do it better, but nobody ever asked them. Remember, I was never taught in my leadership, in my education, to care about you. It was always about me. That's the way we teach. That's why we have the broken leadership in this country that we do in every facet of our country. In the field of manufacturing, I'm sure it's true here, 70% of people in America are not engaged in what they do. Their heart and soul is not involved. It's a job. They do what they have to do to not get fired, okay, or reprimanded, but they're not sharing their gifts fully. They're not giving them themselves because it's just a job, okay? 70% of American companies and organizations, hospitals, United States, everybody's embracing lean. Everybody's embracing because the idea is powerful, but the way it has been embraced is horrible. Only 3% are successful, according to this survey. So what's insanity? We keep gathering together in these rooms and we keep doing the same stupid things. Okay, we talk about cost reduction, process improvement. To me, what we've got is we've got a Ferrari engine in lean, but we forgot to put fuel in the tank, which is the human side. Lean is an unbelievable idea because we listen to people and we release their gifts, and they do wonderful things, amazing things, if we release their gifts. But when we try and manage them, when we try and focus on cost reduction, we don't inspire them. So you've got to inspire people, not manage. You can't manage. That's why lean fails all the time. It is mandated. I go to the lean meeting. Why? Because I'm told to. The people in the field of lean who come involved in ours say the biggest single thing we do in a report out session is ask somebody who's reporting, how did it make you feel? And people cry. They cry because it's the first time anybody's ever asked them what they think.
Dick Ryan, another Barry-Wehmiller team member who played an important part in our lean journey, expands on Bob's comments on how Barry-Wehmiller looks at lean principles differently.
We, Barry-Wehmiller, talk about having a vision to send everyone home every day fulfilled. Okay? And then we'll say we'll provide the lean tools as the methodology to help you become fulfilled. All right? So if you look at most businesses, if you look at Wire Mold, company I work for, we started with kind of a focus on numbers. And we had some layoffs early on. And then we began to get more in touch with respect for people. So most companies start with a drive for number, and the people are kind of there as part of the equation. What we want to do is we want to start with what can we do to make your job more fulfilling? And that's a wide open question because everybody in this room has a different reason, right, on how you'll be fulfilled. And tougher yet, how do you measure it? How do we put a graph together that says we're doing great with fulfillment? You know, that's our challenge right now. We don't have all those answers. We know that one of the answers is if we can come up with hundreds of stories That's a metric for us, but it's not a graph type thing, okay? So this balance of focusing on people and getting results, or getting results and then focus on people, you really have to think that through, and we had to think it through a lot. Because I can tell you, even with our focus on people, I mean, Bob Chapman will go around for his regular quarterly, monthly reviews on how the business is doing financially. So in one session, we're talking about focusing on people, and then Bob goes to the leadership and said, remember, you know, we get a financial report, and he says, remember, team, 800 people depend on your ability as leaders to run this business profitably. It's not, you must make the number this quarter, or you must make it this month. It's, remember, 800 families, which probably means 4,000 people in the community are depending on you to be a financially sound business. That's totally different than make the number. I think you'd agree. So that's what makes us different.
There are a few key moments in our lean journey that Bob Chapman and Raj Sisodia write about in their new book, Everybody Matters, The Extraordinary Power of Caring for Your People Like Family. Listen as Barry-Wehmiller's Chief People Officer, Rhonda Spencer, and Brian Wellinghoff, BW's Lean Journey Director, and then again Dick Ryan, tell this story.
So how we got there was that we had this vision of culture, and but we weren't quite sure how we were going to do it. We also had one of our divisions who was on the lean journey, but it was probably more of a metrics-focused journey than anything. But then we had a big challenge. We bought a company in Green Bay, Wisconsin, that was like most companies we buy companies that are struggling. We buy American manufacturing companies that are not doing well, that are threatened in their very existence. And we know how to add value to those companies, and we know how to do it by keeping them right where they are in the U.S. And so this company, PCMC, had faced a challenge from its largest customer, which was Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble said, we looked at our business in tissue. We need to take 40% out of the capital equipment cost in tissue. You're our largest supplier. You need to take 40% out, and we know how you can do it. Move your business to China. And so faced with that challenge, the leader of that business was a third-generation leader, and he was seriously considering that. But he couldn't even get it done quick enough. They faced a cash crisis, and we went in and bought the company. And so the first thing that Bob Chapman and the president of that division, Tim Sullivan, came in and said, so we had been having the stimulus of this idea of lean and a way to bring it together with our culture. And they came into that business and said, we are going to make you a viable supplier for Procter & Gamble and every other company, and we are not going to do it by moving to China. We're going to do it right here in the U.S., and we're going to do it with lean. So for us, that was really the impetus that we needed to start the journey in earnest across the entire organization. So we started by stepping back and saying, how can we do it differently? And we said, if this is our vision of culture, how do the tools of lean, which are simply tools to bring that to life, what does that look like? We decided that it was about two things. One is about team members going home each day with a sense of fulfillment. But more importantly, it was about legacy. That's why our journey in lean is called L3, Living Legacy of Leadership. Because we realized two things. One is 50 years from now, we want people to understand what Barry-Wehmiller was meant to stand for today. We want the leadership practices that we have today to stand the test of time. And the other reason is that if we want to keep great American manufacturing jobs, we have got to do something differently. And that's what the methodology of lean allows us to do, to engage our team members in how we do things in our business and to make it better. And so that's the journey that we're on. And when we do that in the right way, with the right, and I would say for us, it's probably beyond respect for people, true caring and passion for people, they're going to walk out the door every day with a sense of fulfillment.
The reason we investigated lean or continuous improvement as something to bring into our organization was all about living our guiding principles of leadership more fully and believing that there were tools and techniques and mindsets that can make us be more purposeful about how to do that. Because we were coming up against a lot of challenging items. It's one thing to, turn off locks on a phone. It's another thing to fundamentally look at the processes we use to execute our business and the ways that was frustrating people throughout the organization. Lean classically talks about waste elimination. We found that very uninspiring. But we instead talk about frustration elimination, unlocking the potential of people, and treating people like family as ways that lean could help us get to in the process. So we identified, and we heard from certain lean practitioners, that lean is all about people. But if you look at classic lean implementations, and in this many 10, 20 years ago, it wasn't focused on people at all. It was focused on waste elimination and numbers and getting to profits and really getting more out of people. And that's not the Barry-Wehmiller approach at all. So that's why we knew when we wanted to investigate this approach more for the positive mindset and tools and things that it could add, we needed to get our senior leadership team together to talk about why we were undertaking this journey, what the opportunities were, and to really get their engagement and their brain space aligned to what the opportunity was here. And so that led us to invite all of our divisional presidents and other senior corporate leaders to Green Bay, Wisconsin, to have what we call the President's Kaizen event. Kaizen just means a word meaning change for the good. So a specific event to look at how we could change our approach to processes and business systems for the good, not only of the organization, but of the people that call it home. So as we set up this meeting, it's really inviting the most senior leaders in our organization who were very open to, considering new ways of doing things, but had not had a background in lean. Many other implementations bring in a traditional sensei from Japan or a consultant who knew all the expertise of what this was, and they come in and tell you what to do. That didn't fit in with our culture, nor was it the most effective method to really define a new course for what we call our living legacy of leadership journey. So one of the important things was we didn't want to just bring lean into the organization. We wanted to bring the mindset, but combined with this people-centric, truly human focus on our guiding principles of leadership. So we defined the living legacy of leadership, or L3 journey, with a specific vision document, vision statement around how we want to do it differently than many practitioners had done it in the past. And what's been so gratifying is in the almost 10 years now since we wrote that living legacy of leadership vision, we've seen a change in the way people throughout the lean or continuous improvement community talk about this. We worked with the Association for Manufacturing Excellence as they redefine their vision as coupling enterprise excellence with people-centric leadership. We've seen this change in many other organizations, and we're thankful to be part of partnering with or supporting or learning about and raising the megaphone around this idea of truly human lean implementations. But at the time, it was bringing people in who didn't totally understand what the opportunity was or what some of the tools and traits were. So let me talk about Monday afternoon. Monday afternoon, we invited a lean consultant to come in just as an expert to share what some of these different methodologies were. And we had all of our divisional presidents in a room. Now, granted, if you've been in a manufacturing location, conference rooms aren't always the best. This was kind of a dungeon room, underground, aligning people in an afternoon to listen to a speaker, and a very well-intentioned speaker, but someone that we brought in whose first words were, lean is a way to get more out of your people. That didn't go over so well. Lean is all about waste elimination and profit improvement. Didn't go over so well, and got into some of the tools and details, but was clearly off message to what our desire was. And, after 5 or 10 minutes, Bob Chapman was kind of on his phone, rolling his eyes maybe a little bit, and after about 45 minutes of this, he got up in kind of a huff, the way that it's not to take an important phone call, but because he was disappointed in the direction of the message, and walked out into the hallway. As the organizer of the meeting, therefore, it became my job to go out after him. And I don't know if anybody who's listening to this has had the chance to follow a senior executive C-level leader out into the hall when he's frustrated, but it's not the most desirable thing to think about. So I'm not sure what to find in the hallway of this dungeon room beneath a manufacturing plant in Green Bay, Wisconsin. And Bob got about halfway down, and I said, Bob, kind of, what are you thinking? And he turned around and literally grabbed me by the shirt collar in that moment. And, where are we going here? And he said something that I will never forget. He said, Brian, that is not the way we're going to do our lean journey in this organization. Brian, we are not going to do this if it's not focused on truly human leadership and helping people be the best that they are. That we can have all the tools and mindsets and approaches and process improvements in the world, but if it isn't going to touch people's lives positively in the end, then we're not going to do this. And, I wasn't sure exactly what I said back at that moment, but basically, Bob, I am with you 110%. I am committed to that just as you are. I'm committed to this living legacy of leadership journey. And unfortunately, the speaker that we've set up this afternoon isn't setting us up for that message. I will get us back on track. And we had a dinner, and it was all right. Everybody stayed. They didn't, get on planes and go home. But I'm feeling very hesitant Tuesday morning as we're about to launch into the experiential part of the event. Well, fortuitously, and sometimes this is how things happen in life, there's that synchronicity or that coincidence that comes out being amazing. The previous day, our vice president of operations at the plant we were visiting in Green Bay said, Bob, you should really hear about this lean improvement that 3 people took it upon themselves to do. So at this stage, people learned a little bit about lean. There were a few items out there, but it was still just getting off the ground. So it was unusual that 3 gentlemen would take it upon themselves to, do a project on their own. And Bob said, well, why don't you have them come and speak to our entire group, and we'll have the opportunity to do that. So these guys get an email as they walk in at about 6:30 that morning, come to the executive session at 7 a.m. and share with us what you've done. I've had the chance to follow up with them after that, and I think they were mostly just wondering, what the heck am I going to say to this group, and what kind of questions are they going to ask me in the end?
And we had the event. You know how they all are. There's 30 or 40 report out. 30 or 40 people in the room. The reports start going. The first guy, Steve, steps up and says, well, had a great week. We reduced our square footage by 20%, and we eliminated 20 steps out of 30 steps in the process map. And Bob says, stop. Stop, Steve. Everybody in the room is quiet. Bob says, how did that make you feel, the participation in that event? Steve says, oh, I felt great. I had a really good time. And Bob says, no, I'm serious. I want to know, how did your heart feel? How did it make you feel? And Steve kind of thought back. Again, everybody in the room is quiet. And he says, well, I have to tell you, Bob, when I was going home at night, I was talking to my wife more. And Bob said, well, why is that? Well, going through the event, I met an engineer whose name I had seen for 10 years but never talked to him. And he's a nice guy. He doesn't mean to make bad drawings. I saw the financial person, and they're not so anal retentive. They can think a little bit. And most importantly, they were listening to me. I was giving suggestions, and they were actually listening to me. And I felt great, so I'm telling my wife all during the week. And Bob said, so you mean to tell me that participation in a Kaizen event helped you with your relationship with your wife? He said, well, yeah. That's when I personally had my aha moment, and then I knew what Bob meant by heartfelt. We don't call people head counts. We call them heart counts. But I then knew that's what he wants us to do, so that people go home fulfilled every day, and we arm them with tools, and we provide good leadership. And if we can do that for all 5,000 people, what a great company and what a great world, great country we would be in.
Through it all, the goal has been to provide people meaningful work and a secure future. Here's Jerry Solomon talking again about how our Lean or L3 journey has affected the company.
Overall, L3 has been instrumental in the company's success. From a business point of view, using the tools, the company has freed up many millions of cash flow because we're able to flow our product much faster. Our inventory turns are up. Our on-time performance to our customers is better. Our quality has improved. So that's rewarding to the people, knowing that they're building a piece of equipment that gets installed properly. Happy customers, which means customers that will be loyal to us and they'll be back for more purchases of equipment. So it's been tremendously positive for the business. When you look at all of that, it says we have a secure company. Everyone can be proud of what they're doing. Also, it's affected people's lives. As we go and recognize people, as they engage in improvements and become proud of what they're doing, it builds upon itself. We have a long way to go, make no mistake about it. That's the exciting part. We're at the tip of the iceberg. There's so much more we want to do and give a lot of people the opportunity. One measurement or metric is how many people are applying for BW University. I mean, we have a waiting list. So that must mean the people returning from that life-changing experience are coming back and spreading the word. And the only problem we have now is we have more demand than we have capacity. But a lot of people want to get into that class. And so I think they feel they work for a company that cares about them, that will be here for them as long as they want to be part of our workforce, part of our team. So you do feel good about what you're doing.
If you'd like to find out more about Bob Chapman and Ross Zodia's book, Everybody Matters, The Extraordinary Power of Caring for Your People Like Family, go to everybodymattersbook.com. For updates on the book, this podcast, to get a lot of great content and insight, don't forget to connect with us on the web at Barry-Wehmiller.com, on Twitter at Barry-Wehmiller, on Facebook and LinkedIn, and check out our blog, trulyhumanleadership.com. I'm Brent Stewart. Thanks for listening, and don't forget, Everybody Matters is the only business proposition with truly unlimited potential.